By the time you're 18 years old and a senior in high school, that's great. But if the financial education process starts at 7, you've got 10 years of no information or misinformation.
Too many families avoid talking about money, leaving kids confused, anxious, and unprepared for the real world. But what if money conversations could be fun, empowering, and even joyful? That's the vision of Mac Gardner, CFP, a financial literacy trailblazer with over 20 years in the industry. Through his best-selling books, Motivate Your Money and The 4 Money Bears, and as the founder of FinLit Tech, Mac is transforming how families learn, talk, and play their way toward financial confidence. In this episode of the Midland Money Mindset, discover how you can build a stronger financial legacy, starting with the next conversation at your kitchen table. I'm Larry Sprung, your host for the Midland Money Mindset and founder and wealth advisor of Midland Financial. Let's dive into the show. Well, I'm super excited today to have Mac Gardner, founder and chief education officer of FinLit Tech. It's great to see you today, Mac, and I am excited for our conversation.
Larry, always a pleasure and honor to join you. We've been at this game for some time, so I always enjoy spending some time with you, hearing what's going on in your world and sharing what's going on in ours too.
Same. So listen, we're going to spend a lot of time on what you're doing today with FinLit Tech and all the things that you're up to, but you know, our listeners are always interested in the entrepreneurial journey because sometimes it's very different, sometimes similar. Can you share a little background about your journey to, founding FinLit Tech and your entrepreneurial path?
Yeah, so very fortunate, blessed to be serving in the financial services industry for 25 plus years. Getting close, Larry, to that next decade up, but doing this for a while, and then a few years ago, really got bitten by the author bug, and I wrote my first book, Motivate Your Money. I joke around, I wrote that for big people, and then one of my clients came to me and said, "Hey, Mac, love the Mac Nuggets, love how you simplify things for the big people. Would you be open to creating something for little people?" And that's how this little book here came to be, The 4 Money Bears. So wrote the book, and then something that was really interesting was finding that people are learning differently, Larry. I mean, you and I know we're both in the advisory space, and technology is pervasive and really doing a lot of things. And so FinLit Tech, our mission is to build a bridge between financial literacy and financial technology. So really, that's really what we're about, finding new and innovative ways to teach people about their money. And our most recent launch is the 4 Money Bears Berryville, which is a cool shirt I'm wearing here. And again, this is starting that financial education process really early.
Yeah. I mean, was entrepreneurism in your blood? Was it something that you set out to do all along, or you just kind of tripped over and fell into it?
It was one of those things where there's an adage that talks about necessity being the mother of invention. And folks just kept asking, "Hey, Mac, you should try this, you try that. This is something that if it was there and it existed, my kids could use it." And so kind of stumbled onto it, man. And just really glad that we have, you said it earlier, it's a journey. It can be a very long one, but just glad that my partner and I, Ryan Galini, we connected years ago at an E-Money conference, and we said, "Hey, let's build this thing, man." And we've been pushing along on that journey for some time now.
What a great path too. So, why is it? Because obviously financial literacy is really something important to you through your books, the 4 Money Bears, et cetera, and even the adult books. Why is financial literacy something you are so passionate about?
I think the big thing for me, Larry, is, we take for granted because we're in this business. We know what IRAs are and 401ks and stocks and bonds and so on and so forth. But the thing that was just really eye-opening for me when I was managing a large firm, sit down with people and they had good amounts of money. They did the right thing. They saved and put some money away over the years. But it was just really eye-opening that folks just didn't have the basic knowledge of some of this stuff. And so where in my mind it became problematic was when these folks who have done pretty well for themselves but want to be able to pass on, impart knowledge on managing money to their kids, but they didn't have the tools to be able to do that. And I think, if we can help people sort of better that journey for themselves and the next generation, we can do some really amazing things. A lot of times advisors say, well, Mac, don't you think that could be an issue? I was like, no, I don't think it's a big issue at all. I think it makes our job easier if people understand what's going on with their money, and to be able to kind of fine tune some of these plans and some of this knowledge that people already have, as opposed to really having to start from the beginning with some of these planning engagements. If folks had some basic knowledge of some of these things, I think our world and the world as a whole would be a lot better.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think that leads me into, something that you've probably seen in your, 20, 25 years in the profession. And for me as well, I think ever since I've gotten in it, which is now decades ago, there's been this talk of, financial literacy needs to be in schools. And, I think as parents, just like any other value we feel is important to our children, that we need to somewhat take control of this because, schools have gotten better in this regard, but I still don't think they're where they need to be. So, why do you think it's so hard for parents to talk to their kids about money? I think that is something that, needs to happen, but doesn't really happen all that often.
I think it's twofold. I want to bring a little bit of attention to a point that you brought up here, Larry, which is the fact that this is being taught in schools. We're seeing some really good tailwinds for states that are starting to require financial literacy, financial education courses by high school, right? And so I think that's where kudos, we're trying to get there. We're trying to, engage some education before folks go off into the real world. But studies show that the actual financial education engagement process starts as early as age 7.
Right.
So, if you happen to be in a state that offers financial education by the time you're 18 years old and a senior in high school, that's great. But if the financial education process starts at 7, you've got 10 years of no information or misinformation, right? So that's why we're such advocates of creating tools that starts the financial education process early, gamifies it. And if you can gamify it in our minds, if you can gamify the financial education process at the K through 5 spot, that's also a great time when parents are doing things with their kids, playing games, listening to things. And it can be a collaborative process, because I think that's one of the issues that, to the second point you made, why more parents have the conversation, because they never got it themselves. And so if you never got it yourself, how can you teach your kid?
Right. And listen, I mean, there's different ranges. I mean, I say that my kids are a bit privileged, like you mentioned, because we're in this profession, so we talk about it all the time. But my son in high school went to one of these financial literacy classes, and people didn't even realize that, there was interest that you paid on a mortgage or interest on a credit card. And he ended up leaving the class because he was like, listen, this is too elementary for me. But at the same time, he was like, I think to your point, he felt that most kids at the age of 18, these are things that they should have at least known a little bit about. Maybe they don't know all the intricacies, but they should have known a little bit about, and they didn't.
Yeah.
So, what advice do you have for parents who want to help educate their children about money? Is there a couple of tips that we can leave them that would help them today with those younger kids, 6, 7, 8, and start imparting this knowledge upon them?
Yeah, I would say that some of the best advice is to make the experiences tangible. So when I grew up and we wanted to start learning about money, we had little stands, or, you bought candy to school and you sold stuff. And that's sort of how the entrepreneurial spirit starts off. And so one of the things we're really trying to do with the game that we're developing is we're calling it a virtual lemonade stand, right? When you're young, you have the lemonade stand, you go and you make some hopefully sweet, delicious lemonade. And hopefully people will really be wanting to buy it because it tastes good, not just because you're a kid there trying to be a business owner. But I think making the money experience something that's that's tangible, something that is enjoyable, is fun. That's would be advice number 1. Advice number 2 is that K through 5 space, they're still book readers. They're still pretty tangible. They like to play with things and interact with things. There's tons of really, really good content out there that we're starting to see really bubbling up, books, games. So that will be the second piece of advice, is really go look for things that are out there that are fun. Years ago, I want to say that the financial literacy space was really run by non-for-profits, and it was actually kind of boring. A lot. But it seems now that there's so many different things that are being created by writers from diverse backgrounds and diverse perspectives. And so definitely go out there and find it. You could probably find something that your little one will enjoy.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing over and over again is we have to figure out a way to make these concepts fun, right? And make it something that the child is involved in. So if we involve them, they have fun, they'll want to learn more and hopefully take on, some of these concepts and start taking them forward with them.
Yeah. I think the other thing too I like to share with people, and the reason why it's so important to start it early, Larry, is I talk about the 3 R's of our relationship with money. Right? You're a kid and someone drops some money in your hand and you realize, oh, this is money. Oh, okay, this is cool. And the second R is you first you realize it, then you recognize what it does. And it's like, okay, I know I can spend this and I know I can put it in a piggy bank. And so once you realize what money is and you recognize what it does, then you start to be able to rationalize how to use it. And I think the issue for a lot of young people, if you don't come from a home where investing is a conversation, where giving is a conversation, is their recognition of the function of money is only twofold, right? I know I can save it, I know I can spend it, but there's 4 functions of money, right? You can also invest it, you can also give it away. So I think earlier we can engage young people and show them that they've got 4 options, right? They realize what it is, they recognize they've got 4 options, they can then rationalize how to use it, and that can change the trajectory of a person's life.
Yeah, I agree. When my kids were very young, we had, I think it was a multi-slot, well, I know it was a multi-slotted piggy bank that had a slot for spending, saving, and charity. And I think invest was the 4th one. So it was a 4-slotted piggy bank, I believe. And that kind of allowed us to have those conversations about, okay, you have this money, but you have more options than, like you're saying, those 2 versions of, spend or save. So, and I think we really want people to understand that, we want to think of money in this broader context. So how can we open up people's view, of what money can do to impact their family's legacy? Because we hear this a lot, right? People are talking about generational wealth, but I feel like people talk about it, but they don't necessarily know what it means or how to do it. So how do we start opening up people's minds to see these 4 ways and these 4 functions of money?
It's wild. I was sitting down with my eldest son, got a job in retail and he is still in high school trying things out. And he was like, Papa, I'm gonna be rich. I'm like, great. I said, do you know the 3 ways that people become rich in life? young Gardner. And he was like, so there's a 3 L's I like to call. I like to break things down to 2s and 3s and 4s. I said, there's 3 L's: labor, legacy, and luck. That's literally how wealth is perpetuated in this world. Either you worked for it and you created it, which is labor. Mom and dad or generations before created it and passed it down, which is legacy. Or you won a scratch off and you hit the lottery, or you went to Vegas and you got lucky. And so I think instilling in our young people the fact that, look, it doesn't happen overnight. It has to be something that you work on and you intentionally put time into, I think is one of the first things that we can do. And I think because we are living in a time where technology allows us access to so many things like these wealth creating things like the stock market, like equity markets, where you can pick up your phone right now and you can buy, $5 worth of Starbucks, Coca-Cola, Nike, what have you. I think we're living in an age where it's not just talking about it and saying, this is what you do, and you read this book. We can actually do it. The tools to implement wealth, growth, all these various things that are part and parcel to what is generational wealth, they're here. They're readily available. And so I think that's really what we're trying to do here, is to let parents with young kids know that it takes time to build a portfolio. But imagine if this 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, and you're sitting with your kid and you open up that account for them and they understand the power of ownership of something and have that starting at age 7, 8, 9, as opposed to 17, 18, 19, where you've lost 10 years because those conversations were had. That's something that can really expand on not just talking about generational wealth, but actually implementing the tools, the habits that start early to get us to where we need to be.
Yeah, and that'll impact the next generation too. So you get a more impact than just that, right? Because you get that additional impact.
Imagine if you were 9-10 years old and you started, a stock portfolio.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
We started my son at 14. He started his Roth IRA because he was working. So we, encouraged him to start putting money away. And now, at 22, he looks back and sees the benefits of what he's done. So as he started to work, he's starting to put a lot of money away in retirement because he sees the benefits of doing so. Had we not done that, I don't know that he would have felt the same way. So
your money can work harder for you than you can work for your money. I tell people that all the time.
24/7, right? Yeah. So in 2015, you released The 4 Money Bears, the book you mentioned earlier. What was the goal and what do you hope families will gain from the book? Because I think it's really a timeless classic that is, something that, is just as relevant today and will be just as relevant 30 years from now.
As long as there's only 4 functions of money, Larry, as long as there's not a fifth bear to be added into this mix at some point in time in the future. Yeah, man. When I wrote that book 10 years ago, if you asked me, Larry, or you said, hey, Mac, in 10 years, you're going to have book sales in Germany, France, Canada, Asia, I'd look at you and I'd laugh because I was like, no, that's not what we're trying to do. But this book, I had a client that just didn't know how to start the conversation. And there's only 4 things you've money and kids like bears. And let's create the story about these bears that live in the woods. Let's put some little worksheets inside, little budgets and stuff. And so what it showed me is that financial education is not just an American thing or a US thing. There are parents around the world that are looking for help. I feel really fortunate in that advisors such as yourself have taken up the book and have shared the book with their clients. I remember someone told me years ago, if you take care of a client, they're thankful, but you take care of their child, they're forever grateful.
Mm-hmm.
So I think advisors could be and should be some of the biggest proponents of financial literacy, financial education in their communities. Advisors like you are, which has helped us a lot when it comes to getting the awareness out and how the book can help folks. So yeah, man, we're just really happy. We're really fortunate. Book is awesome. And in fact, now that the game is launched, we're launching another a book series through the game, The 4 Money Bears Berryville. And so we're really trying to build out this all-encompassing financial education ecosystem, right, for young people and for parents with young kids to start the conversations early.
Let's pause for a moment. What actually brings you joy? It's something most people never think about, yet it shapes how your life unfolds. You're busy. You make responsible choices. You even plan ahead. But have you slowed down long enough to ask if what you're building supports a life you enjoy living? That's the reason I built my YouTube channel, to help you bring more joy to your money journey. Sure, we'll talk about all the essentials, but my real goal is to help you connect your finances with what brings you joy, because money is the tool that funds the moments that matter. If you want to explore that connection more deeply, visit my YouTube channel at Larry Sprung. Yeah. So you just mentioned the 4 Money Bears, the Berryville game, which is something you recently launched. What was your reasoning and thought process? I mean, it sounds like it's playing into this greater ecosystem that that you just mentioned, but was there specific reasons behind turning the book into a game rather than just keeping the books coming and rolling and keeping people engaged that way?
Yeah, we really we came to this fork in the road where we're saying, okay, we could do more books, and books are good, but back to how technology is changing, back to how young people are acquiring educational content. That was something that folks would come to me and say, Mac, this book is awesome. This is great. My kid loves reading it, but man, they're spending a lot of time on these devices. Sure, it would be cool if there was a game that they could play that was fun and entertaining and engaging. And if they're going to spend some time doing something, at least they'd be learning something about money. And so that's how Berryville came to be. And the first iteration was about just teaching them what to do with the money once they got it. But then we realized there's really 2 sides to this financial fence, right? There's understanding how money's made, which is the entrepreneurship side. And then there's understanding what to do with the money once you've made it. And so that's why the core of the game now is You actually are running a berry stand or a berry store, and you're making pies, you're making jams, and you're running your own business. So we're introducing entrepreneurship to the player. And then once you do have the money, we've got these beers and these little, it's sprinkle a little cheese on the broccoli, a little flavoring on there. We're not trying to push it into the player's face too much, but we have these subliminal things that are going on, introducing some of these concepts like what's a loan, why it's important to have savings accounts, checking accounts, and why it's important to pay your stuff on time. So we're really trying to utilize a gamified platform. Because if you're engaging that K through 5 space, if it's not fun, they're just not going to do it.
Right. Yeah. Sounds like you're getting the next generation of Shark Tank contestants all ready to go. So
yes.
Great stuff. Yeah. You mentioned earlier about the getting advisors involved with the 4 money bearers and teaching this financial literacy to the families and their kids. And I know one of the things that you've done is you've worked with eMoney and you created a 1-hour CFP board continuing education course. And for those listening that aren't familiar or know, CFPs have to take continuing education every 2 years. I think it's about 30 hours plus you need at least 2 hours of ethics. What was that process like for the advisors, and maybe they want to take this? So where can that course be found if they're interested in that?
So we're really, really fortunate. eMoney has served a role in the development of this game that really, really thankful for. The connection with them is what allowed us to bring the 4 Money Bearers book to advisors to begin with about 5, maybe 6 years ago now. And so eMoney has tons of resources if you're looking for CFPCE certification, if you're just looking to get more information on making your practice better, not just about financial planning, but really on financial wellness and financial education. So if you go to their website, you will be able to download a bunch of really, really good information from them to, again, help you, whether you're an eMoney user or not. You'll be able to go to their website and get a lot of good information on continuing education. And then as we continue rolling out the game, you're going to be able to see more of that as well.
So it sounds like they've been a tremendous supporter of yours and the ecosystem that you're creating as well.
Yeah, helping people talk about money. I mean, that's been their mantra for years. They probably evolved it to something else by now, but yeah, eMoney is really big on understanding the value of the advisor, and that a more educated advisor makes a more educated client, typically. And so, yeah, they're huge proponents of our work, and we're thankful to have had them early on in our journey when we're putting this whole platform together.
Oh, great stuff. So, during the process, I'm going to take a pivot here for a minute, but, during the process of interviewing Jarrell Bland, who, has been with Midland now going on 6 years, one of the things I learned from him was about the very small number of African-American CFPs. I think it was like in the neighborhood, and probably still is, of like 2 or 3%. It's
I think it's less than 3.
If I remember the number correctly. How do you think we as a profession can start to change this dynamic? Because, I've seen value just in having diverse thought, and I've seen value in having diverse people, especially in a profession like this, where everybody's not going to acclimate to everybody, right? Or be drawn into everybody. And I think there's a lot of positives that could come out of this. So how do we start moving that needle? Is that something that, able to be changed?
So I know we're here talking about the 4 Money Bears. I know we're here talking about Berryville, but everything, and just so that the audience knows, Larry and I have known each other for years. And this is something that has been near and dear to your heart for years. This is before this whole, what's going on in society and getting more diversity, equity, inclusion. Larry's been very passionate about it. So
thank you.
How I have worked to try to get just more young people, period, into our honorable career path is really focusing on college students. And I think if we can get more young people to see this path and just get more people of color, more women, folks from just diverse backgrounds into the space, I think it'll be very, very helpful. So that's when I helped to start MNY Fraternity, Mu Upsilon, And the mission there is to, as of now, the only co-ed fraternal organization for students looking to study personal financial planning. So because CFP board requires that you need to have a 4-year degree, because more universities are starting to offer personal financial planning as a degree option, I serve on the advisory board of University of South Florida's PFP program. And in 2019 was the first time that we really launched this, but we have the Alpha chapter there. We have the Beta chapter at University of North Texas. And so I think personally, the way to get more people from diverse backgrounds into this mix, Larry, because it's not like back in the day where you maybe stumbled upon this career, or family member, mom or dad was in the business and they passed it off to their kid. I think there's a whole lot more doors or pathways to get into this business now. And I think the earlier we can get folks interested in it, that's how we can get more people from diverse backgrounds in.
Yeah. I think there's a lot more intentionality, like you said, of people coming down this path. So you feel, if I'm understanding you correctly, I understand you're getting involved in that college age, but do you also feel like, starting kids out, of all backgrounds with the 4 money bearers, that can also lead to them entering the curriculum in college and then, following through into the profession as well?
So to answer your question, yes. and the reason why, Larry, is because if all of a sudden you have a realization that, hey, this is important, this is really important, managing your money is something that I need to do, then it becomes into your awareness that, oh, okay, this is important for me, maybe it's important for other people. Oh, hold up.
Right.
You can actually get a job in this? You can have a career in helping people manage their personal finances? And so, yeah, I also believe that if you can make it something that is in the mindset and in the awareness of young people early, I didn't realize there was a career path in this. Let me go do some digging. Let me hunt around and find a CFP or find a financial advisor or find someone that helps to deal with money, only because now I realize how important it is for me. It's got to be important for other people. And let's see if that's a career path potential.
Yeah. Great stuff. And I appreciate you sharing that. And I think that's a great, way to approach this and, potentially have an impact on this profession for a very long time. So, Mac, it's always a pleasure getting together, and our conversation has brought me a great deal of joy, and it's all about joy on the Midland Money Mindset. And people are always wondering how our guests are going to answer the last and final question that we ask everybody, the same question, which is, what did you do today that brought you joy and put you in the right mindset for success?
I mean, is it obvious? I'm joining you, man. I mean, come on.
Oh, come on. That's the given. That's the given. There's got to be something else, though.
I would have to say that today, specifically, one of the meetings that I have on the agenda on my calendar is a meeting with the Children's Museum of Houston. And so I just think that there's so many really, really cool ways or places that families connect and do things to try to make life better. And so I think that will be a great win for us to be able to work with like Museum of Houston and just children's museums across the country to be able to say, hey, you know what? We're going to teach you this, and here's dinosaurs, and here's this, that, and the other. But here's a really, really cool thing that you may want to, know about, and maybe make sure your kids know more about is how to manage their money. So that's something that I feel blessed to be able to do on a daily basis, is just hopefully make impact in some family with a young kid's life so that they view money a little bit differently.
Amazing. And best of luck with that meeting today. I hope I know you'll kill it. I hope it, comes to fruition in the way that you want it to. Listen, we're going to have all of your information, Mac, in the show notes and everything you're doing with FinLit Tech. But if people want to learn more about you, want to connect with you, learn more about FinLit Tech and the books, what's the easiest and the best place for them to go to do that?
Best place to go is go to our website, the4moneybearers.com. You'll be able to download the game. You'll get information on the new book that we're rolling out. I think that's probably the best place if you want to get information on the 4 Money Bears Berryville. If you want to get information on me and the work that we're doing, not just for kids, but for adults as well, and some of the really neat things we're building out from a financial education perspective for the big people, you can find that information at finlittech.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Mac. It's been a pleasure, a joy, and enjoy the rest of your day.
As I like to say, Larry, the journey continues, brother.
That's true. All right. Be well.
Take care.
Mac, thank you for joining us on the Midland Money Mindset and for sharing your passion for financial literacy and empowering families. Your work with the 4 Money Bears and FinLit Tech is transforming how parents and kids connect through money and inspiring a new generation to build wealth with purpose, confidence, and joy. It's been a true pleasure having you on the show. Mac Gardner and all he's up to can be found across most social media platforms. All the contact information needed to find them can be found in the show notes.